I feel like, and you can disagree with me on this, right? Is that if you want to have like the entire lifestyle, you should go to university. But if you want to just get an education, the library and YouTube are like more than enough.
Imagine if you cut 25% of the school's budget. There'll be a massive argument between the mathematics and science department and the English and arts department. And guess who's going to be cut?
Well, the humanities.
All the humanities. All of it. Hi, welcome everyone to the Zero Filter podcast. It is episode 11, and today we're going to talk about how shit Zoom college is and how shit, or Zoom University is for other people around the world. How shit they are and what our experiences of Zoom University and how, people from like across the globe feel about this method of teaching that has really kind of changed our perception of how we study and the way we study and how we approach studying, I think. And, so how do you feel about it?
I mean, let's just start off, right, by comparing what university used to be and what university is now. Because my first 2 terms at university was like fun, stressful but fun, right? You got clubs, societies, parties you have to go to, and then lectures at 9 a.m. in the morning, and then classes, and then supervisions, which is like one-on-one classes. And you got all of that, right? So a really packed schedule. You see everyone, you meet everyone. And so that was before. Right now, all I get is 1 hour a week of like a one-to-one lesson, which we call supervisions. And then we've got a bunch of lectures recorded online. And that's it. So 1 hour a week of contact time, plus lectures, which, to be honest, I haven't watched. So it's just such a jarring experience because you realize so much of university, or what you guys call college, and all of this money that we're paying is essentially for stuff that you can find online, right? A lot of the stuff you can find online
For the same amount of money.
for the same for cheaper.
Yeah.
Like, all you need to do is have a library subscription, have a work ethic, and like maybe a few extra videos on YouTube is equivalent of a university thing. So while Zoom University is shit, I think at the same time it also highlights how ridiculous the model of universities are, even before the pandemic.
I think it shows like, okay, imagine if you cut like school funding by like 25%. That's what it would look like in terms of what they would prioritize, how much they would prioritize, and like what is the priority basically. I think the added extras is what makes university attractive in terms of as an institution of going into as a young person, trying to kind of make your way through it. But then when you take away what's like all the stuff that really isn't important.
Yeah, all the bells and whistles.
Yeah. The fundamental stuff really isn't a lot.
No,
Because when you distill it down, it's not that much.
For the majority of subjects. Obviously, if you want to be a doctor, you have to go into lab and you have to cut things up and do experiments. But if you're doing something like my subject, for example, history, like you genuinely can get by with just a library and a YouTube subscription.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like even for editing, like you don't really need like a professor to like monitor you all the time. Like you'll know if you're doing shit, right? I feel like there's so many like online classes where I can just take it for like a quarter, or like actually not even a quarter, like a tenth of the price, and still probably learn more than like the class that's in front of me.
And I mean, like, so much shit is online for free.
Yeah.
And it's not just like random people doing random videos either.
Like I just cease to understand where all these like why it would cost this much money, like $600 an hour.
Is that American or Hong Kong?
Yeah, U.S.
Jesus.
So per class, basically, for a 5-hour class, 5-hour class.
To be fair, I think this problem is way worse in America than it is in Britain, because the university tuition costs that you guys have is ridiculous.
No, I just don't know where all this money is going. Like, is it definitely not going all towards the professor?
No, because professors don't get paid.
I mean, American professors get paid a lot, but they don't get paid that much. Like, imagine if you combine the total amount of money that they would get, if they get 50% of the money that they get from each class, so each person pays that much, and then you cut it by 50, and then half that money would go towards the professor, half the money would go to the institution, then even that, it wouldn't make that much sense, right? I feel like Not that much money goes towards professor. I mean, a good amount, maybe like a third of it.
It depends in the American system if the professor has tenure as well, right? Because if they're
Exactly,
untenured academics,
exactly.
they get paid
Like
peanuts.
Spike Lee gets paid way more money than like some other professors. Like tenure professors like Scorsese was professor at NYU for some point. He gets paid a fuck ton of money. I remember like he was getting paid like a couple mil a year, right? Which is like ridiculous. Because you can learn the same stuff. It's just that he has pedigree, right?
Mm.
Um,
So much of university is just the kind of, as you said, pedigree, the name, right? The ability to have a certificate, that piece of paper, which basically says, I'm a smart, well functioning human being.
I just feel like there should be another way of deciding how smart people should be. Like, or not or like deciphering how smart someone is.
I mean,
Like, I feel like
I would argue that's called real life.
I feel like university does that, but university also doesn't do a lot of things that we want it to do. So, for example, like it's not great at like saying, oh, are you going to be someone who's very good at like becoming a good CEO? Doesn't tell you that. Are you going to be a person who's good enough to be um, like like not even a CEO, like an entrepreneur? Are you creative enough? Are you able to be on time? Like
Mm.
all these little small things, like to a certain degree, college cannot help, like cannot teach you, and you have to go into the real world and get references and stuff to do it. But there should be like I feel like there should be a kind of rethink in the academic model towards how we can correctly judge people as not just employees but people who will be
People as creators of value,
creators or of value or people who
or
will
just as
change the
human
world.
beings.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess that raises the question as well. Like, what is university trying to test for? Like, because we know they're not really testing for creativity or the ability to solve problems under stress, unless you're counting exams. I think that what they're looking for is that they want to create, and you may disagree with this, but more academics, because the entire system of university or college is geared towards reading stuff that previous professors and
I feel
academics
like
have written.
I agree with that. I feel
And
like
then,
high school does the same thing. Like
mm.
geared you towards academics, and then it passes you on to the same thing, and then as a result, you end up being a professor. I mean, like a lot of NYU like people end up being NYU professors.
But isn't that? I don't want to say sad because a lot of these professors are really bright people who do great work. But all your life you work so hard and you get straight A's and you do everything right, and the only thing that you get to do in life is instead of actually doing the subject you love, like putting it into practice, you're just becoming another part of the institution and then passing it down to like your students who do the same thing, and then you never actually get to have.
And you guys thought the people who actually get to do it are the people who decided, oh, fuck college, let's just like do it,
Yeah.
let's just go and do it.
Or people who realize midway that grades are important, but so are other things. Because it's not. I don't think it's necessarily true that all these straight A students just become robots, right? Because some straight A students are like also very creative and also very willing to rebel against convention and the establishment. It's just that so too many of these so-called straight A students that we see, they're being trained to do the wrong type of thing.
Yeah, I just don't think they're getting enough like industry experience and how to like get into the workforce and how to like navigate. Like, there's so many different things that college doesn't teach, right? For example, like I love how NYU sometimes is trying to adapt to like the modern world and like how like
How does do that?
for example, like they actively teach you how to write a resume or a CV. Actively tell you how to do it. They actively tell you how to like teach you how to like send out like letters, and they actively tell you how to send out like different things, like different like reach out for different opportunities.
I think that's great.
And
I
they
guess.
also actively teach you like they give you like physical internships where you go in and then you actually do it, make connections, and then like you have to go in and they tell you sometimes it's not up to the college, but it's up to you to decide how you are. And then in terms of people who are like international students trying to get a visa into America, they actually actively have sessions that teach you how to like improve your portfolio. They don't really like bullshit it kind of. They just tell you here's some lawyers and here's what you need to do to get it done, kind of thing.
I think that's actually really helpful because it's giving you a kind of a suite of services to get you from point A to point B.
Yeah, although there are a lot of problems on NYU, but like at the same time, it does sometimes do the job, and it tells you like the reality of like how hard stuff will be. Apologies.
I guess my question is that is the only place you can get those experiences, or the only place you can get that knowledge, is that you have to go to college.
I don't.
To do all of
to
that?
be honest, I don't. To be honest, I think you can just dip your head in the water and be like, yo, let's go.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you need like. Because eventually you'll learn how to swim. You don't have to have a swimming aid to teach you how to swim.
I mean,
I feel like
history would show otherwise, though.
I would say because is high school not enough of a swimming aid?
I would say no,
I
because
think- I think-
do you remember anything like that
No,
important?
no. In terms of like, yeah, obviously, like you don't have to like during like kindergarten and primary school and high school, you're just training yourself to be able to swim, right? For example, this is a mess.
Maybe.
To swim.
Keep going.
To swim. But when you're in high school, when you're in college, their intention is to make you excel at swimming, right? To make you extremely quick. But once you're out of high school, you're already pretty quick, right? So the thing is, like, how do you just get that done instead of using another swimming aid to help you, which might take more of your time? What you can do is just practice and keep going and just keep practicing the form that high school has taught you, and then maybe it'll progress you even further than what college can do.
Let's actually take that metaphor a bit further, right? Because I like that. I feel like what university is trying to do is that they want to maximize the time for, let's say, something like the 200-meter butterfly. They want to maximize the time. When in reality, what you really should be training for is like cross-country swimming. Like swimming across like the sea and then going on a bike and doing all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's not that high school and university are useless per se, but I think we really do have to question whether it's relevant for the times that they're in. And I don't look, as shit as I think Zoom University is, I don't think that it's created any new problems. It's just making all of the old problems and the old structural deficits in the university model and making them really apparent.
And I don't like how Zoom University just lets you like just sit in front of a computer. They have no regard for international students. I'm sorry. Like time zones for me are shit.
But like it's a bit better at my university because
in the UK it's a lot better for Hong Kong at least. But like think about all the kids in like America, right? Who is it? America who suffer the most, right? Like who have to like sleep throughout the night just to like listen to a bunch of synchronous classes, and then afterwards have to like swallow a pill of melatonin just to get to bed, right? Like it's fucking horrible. I hate it.
So how has that affected you and your
I would say this. Not only is it hard to read at 4 a.m. and like try to like get work done at 4 a.m. and edit at 4 a.m. or like I have class from 12 to 1 and then straight away I have class at 6, right? Not only does it affect like me being able to function in class, it's just not it's not the most ideal situation in terms of like a Friday night I have a class.
Yeah.
Like Friday night, like I want to.
So that nukes like your social life.
I want to be chilling like with friends or something, right?
Sure.
Or, like in the morning, right? I want to be like doing stuff, right? Usually, like if you pick a time, you just pick a time throughout the day, but it's like from like 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. and I'm rushing to go to another spot. It's just not ideal, and I'm tired as well. So
how much sleep are you getting a day on average? I don't mean like just spending time on your bed. I mean actually getting sleep.
Like maybe 5 hours.
Shit. But for how long?
Like some days are 5 hours. Some days are like 10 hours. You just have to sleep throughout the day and then kind of get the sleep in beforehand, and then like it literally just change my sleep schedule. Like if I'm slightly jet lagged, that's great. That's a good standard at that point. Like if like I remember there's a time when I'm like completely like synchronous to like Hong Kong time, and like no problem with jet lag, and I was late to 2 editing classes in a row, and my professor was like, if you're late one more time, I'm ducking your grade.
So, but do you think that?
But they have zero sympathy for like anyone who's late. Like they have no sympathy.
But do they not understand where you're coming from though? Like the fact that you are we are literally 12 hours ahead of America.
No, 13 hours.
13 hours. So, yeah.
For me. And then, but the thing is, right? And then even the students in the class were like, "Oh, hey David, why is the sun going up for you?" It's like, because I'm in somewhere called the rest of the world. Excuse me, woman. But anyways,
I don't know, but I think the reason why I haven't had this problem so much is we're only 8 hours ahead of the UK here, and secondly, I think people have been really accommodating. For example, I have a meeting with my DOS, Director of Studies, at the end of this month, right? And then originally she put me down for 2:45 p.m. her time, which is 10:45 p.m. my time. And I was like, hey, that's actually quite late. Can we like shift it earlier?
10:45 is late for you.
Yeah, because it's different standards, right? Because they're really accommodating of international students. Like they will that is the one thing which I will praise Cambridge so far about, is that they will like go night and day to make sure that they are accommodating for international students who are doing a remote term at home. Yeah. So for example, like my supervisions, our one-to-one classes happen at 5:30 afternoon for me, which is 9:30 like their time, which is like perfect for both of us. And so that is one thing I'm quite lucky, because I don't have to suffer the same things that you do, because I still get my 8 hours basically. But yeah, I can definitely see why Zoom University is screwing over so many international students, because
no, American universities have no regard for international students. Like they don't care. Like they don't like. This is a massive rant, but like they don't care.
Get it all out.
They don't fucking care about international students. Like NYU is supposed to be the most international friendly student like university ever, and they don't do shit about it. Like they're just like, oh, like I don't care. It's New York time. Suck it up. That's what my professor said. In a meeting with me, it's just like come on, like if you were in my position, like would you stay or would you go? Like, do you know what I mean? Like would I stay in New York just to like be in the same time zone? Like that's ridiculous.
Do you think it has a problem with kind of their place in society and how they view everyone
It's just
else?
how like in the UK at least you know about the rest of the world. In America you don't. Like it feels like a bubble. I'm not gonna lie, it did feel like a bubble when I was in America. Like there was no mention of other countries.
None, so like
Not
Europe.
Really. No.
It's
like, oh, here's the UK. It's like, oh, where's the UK?
Nah, come on.
This is like, I'm exaggerating, obviously, but like,
it's interesting because this problem apparently has existed over 200 years before, because there was this French guy.
I don't understand why the American education system just doesn't get a grip and like teach about.
But I think it's just part of the American character, because 200 years ago there was this famous French guy who went to America, and then he went back to France and he wrote a book about it. Right, it's called Democracy in America, and he's like, oh, Americans are really up to date with their own political system, but ask them about anywhere else or whether they understand the rest of the world, and the answer is no.
No, exactly.
And this was 200 years ago. This was like 1835, right? That book was published in 1835.
There's something fundamentally wrong about like.
I wouldn't say it's wrong, but it's just it's a quirk of American character.
Like all I know is like, oh, Jim Crow laws, and then like all these different issues, like racial issues, and then like once you even try to contend with them about like issues about America, it's like cancel culture and all these different things, and I'm just like
they don't see
the
beyond the kind of West and East Coast.
Well, I will say this right. First and second semester is just like such a culture shock for me. Like the biggest culture shock I've ever experienced.
And that's crazy because you're already used to an international school, which is already quite Americanized.
It is deep,
right?
I wouldn't say Shawston College is very Americanized.
Okay, no, but compared to like.
But I would say it's probably one of the biggest culture shocks of my life, just because like I didn't really know a lot of their references, like, and also like a lot of what they were talking about, and I feel like, and not even just not what they're talking about, but like a lot of like the little like nitpicky things or like the really small things that we talk about. Sometimes I just don't understand. Like I don't understand why like being part of the being like usually like at school, right? We're encouraged to disagree, right? In America, if you disagree, it's like you're cancelled, which I don't like. Or like all these different...
Is that necessarily all of America though? I feel like
it's not all America, but like
you are living in the kind of most the richest, most progressive part of New York.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I think,
and also I will say, like, for example, like these references to like pronouns, I never really understood until I got to like NYU, or like these issues to do with like um I don't know, like climate change. Well, I mean, climate change
I
is all
mean,
relevant, but
it's an
like,
important issue, the
but
climate
it,
change.
I disagree.
Really?
I
Okay,
disagree. No, no,
we
no.
will talk about that later.
We can
I
talk about that
didn't.
later, but
Yeah.
I think climate change, honestly, like how are you gonna fix climate change as an issue? Like, come on, like you're gonna stop using your iPhone? There are people who like are burning coal. We can talk about that later.
Yeah,
But
let's
like
talk about that
we can
later.
talk about that
Let's talk
after.
about. Let's go back to
In
the
the next
educational
episode.
system.
But in terms of the educational system, it's just very narrow-minded in terms of like you're supposed to know everything about America but nothing else, and you can't really compare anything else because if you look at how Trump is operating, if they knew anything about like the far right.
I thought we were moving out of American politics.
No, but what I'm gonna say is like if you know anything about the far right and how Trump is trying to emulate that, the Americans would actually pinpoint that and be like, oh guys, this is exactly what we shouldn't be doing, right? But then they don't know anything about it, and if you can't use other countries as a model to be like to kind of frame your own country, you shouldn't mess with you really shouldn't mess with authoritarianism. You shouldn't mess with the alt right, and you shouldn't mess with complete socialism. It's a bad model. We've had years of this stuff, like World War II, and then like we've had like the Cold War. Like I don't understand how Americans don't know anything remotely about anything about this. Like it's not a fun game to be in, right? So
Let's move it back to
so
education.
I would say, if, for example, that's one example of what I mean by like they sometimes don't know about like certain things outside of their country, right? If they just had an education system that actually taught people about the rest of the world, I feel like it would be so much more accommodating for people that are coming into the country, and being a country that allows immigrants or like is built upon immigration. It's such a disservice that they're not doing this, right? And obviously NYU has been very kind of international in terms of how they teach. Like they don't just teach about Americans, but they teach about like the rest of the world as well. It's a good mix, I think. It's like a 60-40 mix. Um, but sometimes it's just very difficult to just put your foot in and be like, hey yo man, if you compare this to this country and you're like, huh? And then that's their reaction.
So what you're saying, I'm trying to summarize what you're saying here. It's like it's not what they say, is what they do. So what they say is the stuff they teach, but what they do is the actual practices that they
just don't they just don't care. Like they don't care about the rest of the world at all. Like, at least for us, like we care about some parts of the world. But it's like when it comes to raising awareness, no problem raising awareness. But they genuinely like know about the rest of the world, and they genuinely like understand the rest of the world like some other countries do. No.
Do you think that's a product of America or of the educational system?
I think it's the education. I don't blame Americans for not knowing like
Okay.
stuff. But I do blame the American education system for being so. Obviously, it needs to be American centric. Like
because you are in America.
You are in America, exactly, right? But like they're just like our school, right? Our school is British. Well, kind of British. It's not really British.
Which school are you talking about?
Shawson College.
Shawson.
I don't want to call it British. It's like a international school that's like very. That is somewhat.
It's Hong Kong's idea of what it means to be Anglo-American.
Exactly. Okay, Anglo-American. Okay, but we somewhat had an understanding of the world.
Yeah, but let's move forward because we're running out of time.
Yeah.
So we've identified all of these problems with America and to a lesser extent Britain, and we've identified all of these problems with Zoom University and the entire model of education it puts forward. So how do we kind of construct a better education? Not even necessarily an educational system, but how do we make sure that students get a better education moving forwards in this age?
I think in this age of like COVID, or like in this age of
right now going forward into the future. How do we make sure people get a proper
like
education?
with this understanding? I feel like some of the excess things that don't matter should be cut.
Yeah.
Right. So for example, I think, in my opinion, I'm not sure about some schools, but I genuinely think that, for example, like I think clubs are great. Like sports clubs are fine, but like what's it called? it's really difficult to decipher because like you can't just like pick one and be like, oh my god, we're gonna kick it, because they're trying to make as many social events as possible. I think some social events that are too narrow should be cut.
Okay.
I
I see
understand that NYU like wants to incorporate everyone, but at the same time, it's like you want
You need
pay
to prioritize.
less-
You need to
You want
prioritize.
to pay less or not.
I would say before we really sum up this episode, is that
Also, I'll just say one more thing.
yeah, go on.
What,
What do
in
you
terms
say?
of the money aspect, I feel like you either pick. This is what I think. This is what Peterson said once, but it's like imagine if you cut 25% of the school's budget. There'll be a massive argument between the mathematics and science department and the English and arts department. And guess who's going to be cut?
Well, the humanities.
All the humanities. All of it. All the women's studies, all the gender studies, all of that stuff. All the psychology stuff, gone. Nothing, everything that will be really important, like practically, just getting your job, lawyers, being like doctors, nurses, and then
But is that the point of university though? To
English.
just get you a job.
English is gonna be there. But I mean, what if you cut 20% budget? They need to make. They
Yeah.
still need to make results, right?
I would say, yes, results are important, but if what you're after is that classical liberal education, don't be afraid to go outside the curriculum and just read about it, because you don't need to pay $50,000 to read about gender studies when like you can read all the important works at the library.
Exactly.
So
100%. You don't have to get a course on gender studies.
so don't waste your time.
Don't waste your time studying gender studies. That's the message of this
That's
episode. Don't study gender studies, kids. It's really just it's such a bad. I'm kidding.
And also for Zoom University, I would say it's true that you do get a bit more free time. Use that free time to discover what you like to do and do it.
100%.
So
I feel like
I think that's a more positive message.
okay, yeah. But I'll say like one thing that Zoom University has done, to just to wrap things up, is like
It makes you realign your priorities.
realign your priorities.
So important.
Number one. Also, you spend more time doing stuff you want to do, and you're at home all the time, so you're just like you can work on different things whilst the lecture's going on. And then you know you can chill out more whilst you're in lecture. You know, you listen to lecture and maybe,
So it's not all bad, but
So-
what we're trying to say is that there are massive structural flaws in the university system.
as a result of COVID, like COVID being
But- but-
inviting it.
I think COVID highlighted it, but
Yeah.
it was there before. But I would say to people like us and to ourselves as well, this is also a really great opportunity for us to figure out what we're doing with our lives with all that time and extra resources that we have.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think on that note, I think it's time to wrap up.
Time to wrap up. So, if you guys like episode 11 of the Zero Filter podcast about Zoom University, please give this episode a like, comment, and subscribe. And without further ado, peace.